Every October on my stream, I like to play horror games, believe it or not, and this month I tried to play as many new horror games as I can, and today I'd like to talk about one that really caught me off guard with just how much I liked it, Lost in Vivo. Just a heads up, I promise this will be shorter than the Haunting Ground video, that one kinda got away from me. Lost in Vivo starts off pretty spectacularly with you going on a little walk with your service dog. However, out of nowhere, a storm surges up and your little cute puppy gets lost somewhere in the sewers. So in an attempt to go find them and save them, you travel down into the sewers as well, and go through a haunting, scary, terrifying delve into your own psyche. This first area in the sewers for me is basically like a gold standard for atmospheric horror moments. This is just an astounding area altogether. The game has you traveling through this series of terrifying sewer tunnels that are barely wide enough for you to shine your entire flashlight down. It's a bunch of long, twisting, winding turns, but you're not completely going through the maze alone thanks to the mechanic where you can call out for your little puppy and he will bark and kind of lead you down the right direction. It's really interesting and kind of increases the tension as you don't really see much of anything during this entire section, save for one enemy who's just a person who's lived there and, judging by some notes, has gone to go a little insane. Despite not actually having any bad guys save for the one, and there not really being anything too freaky except for at the very end with your puppy, this entire section sets the tone for Lost in Vivo really well. First of all, the lighting is exceptional with your flashlight. I think lighting is a really difficult thing for horror games to get correctly, and Lost in Vivo does it spectacularly. The creepy sounds and eerie soundtrack of the tunnels are just perfect for setting you in a kind of creepy horror mood. You never know just what's going to be around every corner you turn, and I was taking this incredibly slow for what is ostensibly a section that is just a small linear maze with no bad guys whatsoever. It's honestly a treat to play through. The next section of the game has you traveling through a kind of subway station and traveling on the subways themselves. The first thing you see is some strange man taking your dog on a subway train, which sets you on a course to figure out how to follow them. This is where Lost in Vivo's gameplay really starts to come into its own. First of all, most of the story of this area is told through these little notes, which are a really interesting piece of lore where you learn the story of a girl struggling with self-worth, weight issues, and you kind of have this entire area as a kind of walkthrough of her psyche and the depression and pain she's feeling as she writes these notes and experiences her life. Once again, the atmosphere is top tier, especially in the subway train sections. You hear all kinds of creepy noises, the lighting is once again exceptional, and to top it all off, you get some really creepy parts where it sounds like someone's being run over by the train as you hear their screams slowly taper off into the distance. It's just an incredibly terrifying area. During this section, you also unlock one of your cassette tapes. These are kind of side stories that cover, well, your story in a way. The first one here is you going to a dog shelter and eventually finding your cute little puppy, but not before having to traverse this absolutely terrifying area full of jump scares. But these cassettes are super short and they add a surprising amount to both the story and the horror element that I really enjoyed, to the part where, despite hating collectibles, I really wanted to find all of these. The subway section also shows off the game's general gameplay in the form of your classic survival horror map exploration / puzzle solving, and the combat, in which you get a handful of guns that you use to shoot ghosts and other things to death. It's pretty standard, not anything to write home about, the combat especially, but it does still add to the experience, and it's always fun to shoot ghouls, come on. As the game progresses, the enemies start to get a little bit more overt in their symbolism. One of the first ones is the mirror enemies that you'll find shortly after the train section. These are obviously a reference to either your characters or the person who's writing the notes, self-image issues, a la Silent Hill 2 manifestation of these kinds of ideas of self. The notes you find written start to get more and more terrifying as well. This character meets a boyfriend, but the boyfriend starts verbally abusing her, calling her fat, calling her ugly, and things eventually get more and more terrifying between them, but they have also had a baby together that she now resents due to the behavior of her boyfriend. It's really interesting the way the gameplay, the areas, and the enemies of Lost in Vivo kind of evolve as you uncover how much the character who's writing these notes is starting to degrade more and more in both her self-image, her self-worth, and how she feels about her child. I want to try not to spoil too much of this game because some of the things and some of the places you uncover and evolve are really, really well done, and I highly recommend everybody play this game, but I do want to make note of just how spectacular these early sections are in showing the kind of mental degradation and showing it visually as well. Some of the levels are often interspersed with these kind of therapy talks with a psychiatrist who you can only assume is your own characters, as that's how the game opened as well. So it seems like your character is also going through a fair amount of mental trauma as well, hence why they also had the service dog. Having your character who's also dealing with mental issues kind of go into this strange world where they get to experience the mental distraught and the visualizations of those from this character who's writing the notes and struggling with their own similar mental troubles is a really interesting way to introduce some of the larger themes of this game, which I'll speak on later, but it should be kind of obvious at this point that your character is using this strange world as a way to walk through and overcome their mental troubles as well. As you delve deeper and deeper into the underground, the enemies you fight get stranger, the notes you read get more terrifying, and the cassette tapes that you experience get more and more strange and horrifying themselves. Mental issues are difficult to understand and to solve and to work through, and I think the game does presenting that in such a weird alien way incredibly, incredibly well. This is not an easy journey that our character is going on, and I think it's depicted exceptionally well within this game. The lab section in particular, while one of my favorite sections from a gameplay perspective, was also one of the most difficult for me to wrap my head around how it actually fits into the overarching lore of the game, and frankly I'm not sure if it even does outside of just being a strange, weird experience for a character to go through. The lab follows kind of the notes left behind by these two scientists, one who was working on some sort of strange creation to make monsters, and as you progress through the puzzles within the lab, you will eventually find these horrifying creatures. But things in the lab also get very, very meta in an interesting way. For example, one of the key items you have to find involves you putting a doll's head into a vise until it shatters, which also affects your vision, as you see it slowly cracking with each turn of that crank. There is also the entire meta gameplay aspect of the scientist that you find. I really don't want to spoil this because I think it's one of the most incredible, meta gameplay elements that I've ever seen in a game, to the point where even I was confused of if what was actually happening was real or fake, if that makes sense, part of the game. And I think treading that line is really difficult to do within a video game, and this game does it exceptionally. I think to an extent these sections are meant to confuse the player in a similar way to how our main character is confused by what they're going through and what they're grappling with. This is just a guess. Like I said, this was the most confusing part of the game for me to tie into the overarching lore, but I do believe it's more of a player-character divide to make the actual player think that the things going on are strange as well. And if that's the case, I think it's really cool and really well done. The final areas of the game are also absolutely exceptional horror. It's very difficult for me to be legitimately scared from a video game. I always have that kind of disconnect where I'm very aware that what I'm playing is a video game and none of it is actually horrifying, so outside of jump scares, it's very difficult for me to be terrified. But these entire final sections were tense in a way that I struggle to find in horror games and really want to savor every time I do. They are exceptional survival horror, just truly brilliant. This brings us to the end of the game, which I have found out has multiple endings. I won't spoil any of them because, they're all actually kind of cool, and they all get to play into the narrative of how your character has grappled with the trauma that they are going through and the mental issues that they have been struggling with. Overall, Lost in Vivo is one of the greatest horror games I have ever played. It's very short. I think we did all of the side stuff and all of the main story in a little under 4 hours, and that's with time to explore the little side sections that you get to look at all the different character models and stuff, which is a really cool thing to add into the game. There's a lot of neat little secrets that are strewn in here that I really, really enjoy. So overall, Lost in Vivo was an absolute gem that came out of nowhere for me. I had never heard of it before my chat room recommended it to me, and now I'm recommending it to all of you. If you love horror games that delve into the psyche a la Silent Hill 2, then I highly, highly recommend this game for you. In the meantime, there will be more videos about the horror games that we played over the month, and I'm very excited to show off all the weird shit that I played. If you want to catch me playing stuff live, catch me on my twitch.tv/Rose_Waltz. Otherwise, subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll be seeing more gameplay videos. I have a wide variety of stuff that I put out on my YouTube channel. Still kind of finding my vibe with the YouTube, but I'm sure I'll find it eventually, and any support you give means the world to me. So thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your whatever time of day or whatever area in the week it happens to be.